everyone, and welcome to another episode of Fay and Tom's Divorce Coaching Podcast. And today we're talking about starting over, navigating changes after you've been through a separation and divorce. So I'm turning the tables, Tom. I'm going to start by asking you a question. And I want to ask you, what was the major change that you had to navigate after your divorce? What's the biggest thing?
After the divorce of the actual formalities, or when we first split up? Because there's two different things.
They certainly are. We'll go with then, when you first split up, what was one of the major things that you had to work through?
Bloody hell. Where to live was an immediate one. How I could sort out seeing the kids, and then how to navigate that communication process. And I'm talking like when it's really raw, like hours, not even just days after, when you get to see the kids, how you communicate that when you know that the other person is really hurting. Like I said, where to live. I went from like the family home, as it were. And you know, when people use the phrase about leaving the family home, well, I personally don't see that I left the family home. When, again, I think it kind of covers sport, not to get too much into it, but when me and my ex-wife had that fateful discussion on that fateful night back in March 2017, she was obviously really hurt and really upset and really emotional, and she needed support and solace. And she said, look, would you mind if I call my sister and have my sister come over? I was like, yeah, cool, no worries. And this is the reason I'm telling you this, it does kind of speak to my answer. I'm just going on a random monologue here. But I said, yeah, no, look, of course, I kind of get that, that's fair enough. So her sister came over and I said, look, I'll give you guys some space. I'm going to go out. And I remember categorically swearing on kids' lives, I categorically made an agreement with her and with her sister. I was like, I am not leaving the family home. I am going out for a pint of milk. It's just the same if I was going to get petrol or pick up a sandwich, whatever it is. I'm just going out for a drive. I am coming back. I'm not going anywhere. And what within about, I can't remember now. It was like something like, I remember it well back then, but it was like 37 minutes or something. I then had phone calls, text messages from my now ex-brother-in-law saying, we've spoken to a solicitor. They hadn't. It was about 10:30 at night. I've spoken to family solicitor, you've left the family home, statement of execution, you're not allowed back in 48 hours. So I suppose going back to the original answer, my immediate, what have I got to do starting over? Where am I even going to sleep tonight?
Yeah.
So again, for anybody watching this that's maybe in that pre or planning kind of phase or stage, or even thinking about this is like a likely situation that you might find yourself in, not to kind of prepare for any eventualities, but know that you've got somewhere to go. Have a friend, a family member, someone you can call on immediately, and where you can go. I ended up going down to my parents, and they were away. They were, I can't remember, I think they were in Greece or New Zealand or somewhere, but they'd literally just gone away. So their house was empty. It was like a 45, 60-minute drive away. So I had to then drive by myself in an emotional state for an hour down the M1 to go and stay at my parents' house. So yeah, it was just knowing where you're going to sleep that first night can be really, really scary.
That resonates with me. And I think a lot of our clients, you know, that fear of where am I going to live, it is such a big one, and it can literally take over. I remember with my first marriage, we'd bought the plot of land, we'd built the house, and we'd only lived in it for about 17 months before my first husband decided he didn't want the marriage anymore. And literally I spent many, many months, even though my ex moved out, and I was in this huge house on my own with a 1-year-old daughter, rambling around thinking, what the hell am I going to do?
Yeah.
I certainly couldn't afford the house that we built together. So it is that fear that can actually paralyze you.
Yeah.
And we ended up both of us moving. And then on my second marriage, I had the same again. It was my ex's house. Again, so I was left thinking, oh my gosh, I need to move again. I have actually moved, we were laughing beforehand, I've moved quite a bit over my divorce journeys. So again, that panic set in again, thinking, what on earth am I going to do? Where am I going to live? I've got 2 children at this point. So it is a a huge fear and worry that lots of people go through.
Yeah. I
Um,
don't know about you. I went to, I mean, I originally went down to stay with my parents, but for like that night or whatever it was, I actually ended up, because obviously my family live 45 plus minutes away, and my kids are in my hometown, or where I live, as is their mother and their schools, etc., that I didn't want to be staying a 45, 60-minute drive away, for any of those potential opportunities where I would be able to get to see them, where I would have the opportunity, which even now still sounds like the wrong word to say, have an opportunity to see you. When in those earlier days, when maybe I get a message saying, hey, look, do you want to take the boys to the park or something like that? I didn't want to be an hour away. So a friend of mine, her and her, unfortunately now ex-husband, they actually said, look, come and stay with us. It's the next, not town, but like little area of the same town. So like we live in Bedford, and she lived on, me and my ex lived on one side, but and my friend stayed like the little village over. So I went and stayed with her and her husband for, I think it's about 3, maybe 4 weeks, might be less than that actually, so that I was nearby. But then it came to the point of her wanting to have the boys stay over for the night, which my ex at the time didn't want to do with me staying at a friend's. So again, we had to find, there was another change, like you said, the constant moving. It was in a case of, at the time, trying to appease my ex so that I could find a way to work with her, so we could start figuring out that co-parenting thing when everything's still really raw for everybody and for the kids as well. One of her caveats was that she would only let me have the boys overnight if I went and stayed if I was staying at my parents'. So then I moved from my friends, it was just around the corner to be close to the boys, to 45, 60 minutes down the road at my parents, so that I could have the boys on the weekends, so they can actually stay over. So yeah, knowing where you're going to live and what you're going to do, is some of the scarier things. The other thing that comes up for a lot of people, work.
yeah.
Whether you're already working, and more so if you're not and haven't been for years.
Exactly. I was so lucky, Tom, that I kept, I was a teacher. I still am a teacher in a part-time capacity, that I kept my job. And I was so glad that when I was married, that I didn't give that job up to be a full-time stay-at-home mum. And I know that's a lot of worry for some women that have done that, thinking, oh my gosh, I need to find a job. I need to start earning some money. I'm so glad that I had a job still. I felt so grateful. And, I'm still obviously at the same job I've been in a long time. And when I've thought about that, I think, why am I still in this job? And I know exactly why. It gave me that stability. My personal life was a mess, but I needed that constant of having a job to go to.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people see their job as that constant, don't they? And I think if you move jobs or you haven't got a job, it just seems a huge, again, a scary place to be, thinking, what am I going to do?
Yeah. I mean, before my mates got separated, I'd spent the best part of like 14, 15 years, or whatever it was, in the city, working in recruitment. And for about the last 7 or 8 years of that as a director and founder of 2 different businesses. And so I was used to that kind of city life and leaving at 6 in the morning, not getting to 8, 9 o'clock at night. But some months before we separated, one of the things that she was unhappy about was me working in London. So I changed and got a job back out close to home. So I was actually I was only like, it was in my first week, maybe my second week, I think it was, of my new job, and my first job for almost 15 years outside of London, which I wasn't used to, because there's a bit of a different kind of experience working in the hustle and bustle of the city. And I was working for this really small company, out in the sticks, middle of nowhere, with a real different approach and mentality and way of working that I wasn't used to. So I was trying to adjust to a new working place, as well as all this other stuff going on. And it was horrible. Needless to say, I actually ended up going back and finding another job back in London. I went back to working. No, I need to go back to what I know. I need some kind of solace and comfort zone for me.
So you found safety in going back to what you knew.
I did. Which then again, ironically, even some years down the line, a couple of years later, when I finished all my retraining, etc., for me to then go, actually, I'm going to go and work for myself and set up a coaching practice, helping people going through divorce, which is obviously a million miles away from doing what I was doing before. So I think that's one of the other things, is you're going to find things out about yourself that you have either suppressed and haven't wanted to admit to yourself, whether that is about your boundaries of what partner is acceptable to you, your parenting styles will very much likely change as well, and your approaches to them. Like your friendship circles, that's a huge one, isn't it? That can change.
Yeah.
That can change a lot. And then your career as well. There's so many things. If you think about everything in your world when you are married or with someone, literally think about every different facet of that angle of that life, family, etc., extended family, all of it is going to have some kind of involvement, or maybe it might be very minor, but it might be huge as well.
Definitely. I liken it to you feel that your life, when you're going through a separation, divorce, that your life is spinning out of control. So for me, you grab onto things that you can control. And that for me was my job. It was my friends that I still had. It was my children. And I could finding that comfort. It's that safety, isn't it? When everything else is going wrong, that you look at where you feel safe. And it's ironic for me, the house I live in now is only a couple of streets away from the house that I had when I was first single after my second marriage. So obviously I felt safe in that area because I've come back to it. So it's interesting when you talk about safety, that it's, people just want to feel safe. They want to be in control of certain things of their life because they're not in control of other parts of their life.
Yeah. But I was going to say, actually, and this isn't to kind of link it back to what we do, but actually it kind of follows on from one that we've recently done around, or a couple of episodes ago, when we recapped, didn't we, on what is a divorce coach, or as one client asked me, WTF is a divorce coach. But it's not just, I don't know if you find this when you're talking with potential clients, or if you're networking, or when you're partnering with a solicitor maybe, and they'll always say, look, how do you approach it? What do you actually do? In actual fact, it's not just the emotional support and well-being. There's also a lot of practicalities. I know we've spoken before, you're a bit more holistic and I'm a bit more practical, but I imagine you still find and work with a lot of those topics around, like your example where you said maybe a single parent, let's just say maybe a single mum, hasn't been in the workplace for even 5 years, because that can be a huge difference from the technical stance these days, but even 5 or 10 years. I also find that a lot of the work that I do with my clients is also helping them kind of figure themselves out again. And that, whilst it's divorce coaching, I might have 30 minutes of a client session helping them figure out their CV, or helping them find out where to go and find a new job, or what recruiters to speak to, or when we're just talking in the job context. So it's not, yes, it is the emotional support well-being, helping you manage and understand and cope through that and really figure yourself out again, but it's also those practicalities of how you then move on actionably, isn't it, around how you move forward.
Definitely. I'm just thinking back to so many clients and myself. I was one of those people that thought to myself, I don't even know who I am anymore. And it's working towards finding what you want to do with the rest of your life. And that could be a small change from, like you say, maybe doing more hours at work, or a big change, having a total retraining again in something completely new. Or so I think for me, when I work with clients, it's very much around, you need to find your passion, you need to find who you are, because as we know, divorce changes you as a person. You do have to do that self-awareness and find out who you are. And like you say, it's hard and it's painful. Some of the things that I found out about myself, not very nice things. I always say I can be very selfish. And for me to accept that, especially when I haven't got my kids, was hard. You're accepting the good and the bad about yourself, aren't you?
Yeah. I think that's a really good point as well. And I've spoken about this in some other clubhouse rooms as well as our own one, but also in the Downs one that I do, the Thriving Fathers one on Mondays at 1 o'clock. And we would talk around that in terms of an identity piece as well, and actually where to give yourself a break and take the pressure off of, if you about that feeling of like selfishness, that actually to still turn up and be present and show up as the best version of yourself, you still need to be able to have an element of selfishness where you look after yourself, you go and do the things that bring you joy and passion and make you smile, so that it makes you a better person as a whole for those times when you have got the kids as well as when you haven't, and trying to go through this process and this minefield of situations. One of the other things, I suppose, that I was going to come to, and I'll only mention it because we've got someone coming on in an episode or two around the co-parenting stuff, things like that, is your nesting arrangements. That was a new thing as well. Now, you didn't do that, did you?
No,
neither did I. But maybe it's 2020, 2021 thing. We weren't doing it back in 2017 and 2018, I can tell. But it seems to become more and more common now, doesn't it? And again, that could also be a huge shift for you, because everyone's scenario is different. Everyone's experience is so different. And that might be something that you might find as being one of the biggest struggles when, and obviously we mentioned this is confidential, but there is a client that I know of where one of the struggles they had is where they've got a nesting arrangement. For anyone that doesn't know what it is, it's where the kids stay in the family home and the parents become interchangeable and move out intermittently. They were also, in their nesting arrangement, they had a shared apartment or something somewhere, not far from the family home. But of course, they're both still sharing that place. So they're sharing two homes whilst never being around each other. So even when you're like, right, I'm not in the family home, I haven't got to do the washing up and cleaning and tidying up with the kids and the school runs, and then you go back to the flat that you're also sharing with your ex, and be like, they've left all their shit around, like their washing's everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it is fascinating. I can't wait for that podcast, because it certainly wasn't around, like you're saying, 2017. And obviously it doesn't work for everyone, but I think with changes as well, and changes are personal, it depends what you've been through. I think one of the main things that I really struggled with as well was, we talked about friendships. A lot of my friends were friends I had with my husband at the time, that we, as you know, you go out together, you socialize together, maybe they've got children because you've got children, so it works. So when you find yourself single again, it's like, oh my gosh, are they still going to be my friends? Do I still want them as my friends? And I've got to admit, I had a complete friend overhaul. Scary though it may seem, I still do keep in contact with old friends. However, I've got a new, what I call my new crew, who were my singledom crew that we'd go out with, because they were in the same position as me. They were going through divorces. So we used to go out and have great fun, because we could. And we used to swap stories and actually feel like, actually, this isn't too bad.
I've also had that with a couple of clients where they've said, oh, like my friendship circles, they're all still married, some of them happily, some of them not, whatever it might be, or in long-term relationships, again, some happy, some not. And then they feel that they have anyone that kind of resonates and really knows what they're going through. And again, I always say to them, like, cool, well, look, you've got an opportunity. You don't have to lose those friends, but you can still go and expand your horizons and meet new people that are in that same boat and same experiences. And like you, mine's a little bit different. All of my wife's friendship circle is actually her immediate family. So it was not just like losing friends, but it was also losing family. So it was a double-edged sword in that respect. So that again was something that was quite difficult and quite hard. But my new partner, friend, I got really close with a lot of her friends, but I also reconnected with a lot of my family as well, which I've been a bit distant for years, and latter years of my marriage, and old friends as well that I hadn't really seen that much of, as well as new friends as well, and people like you, Fay, coming and doing stuff like this.
I'm glad you said that, Tom.
Yeah, I was going to say the best till last, of course. But yeah, I think the other thing is, like, when it comes to starting over, don't be afraid of that new change, because there is going to be a lot of changes. And I think one of the biggest things is around just allowing to not put so much pressure on yourself, and that all these changes are coming at once, because as much as I would love to say that this isn't true, and it's going to be for a lot of people, they come thick and fast, and they come very quickly and quite rapidly, one after the other in some instances, or most instances as well. So I think, again, this isn't to scare everybody out there, but think about the things that could be useful for you, whether it's working with a coach like myself or Fay, or indeed anybody else. I mean, we can help you decipher all these things, but still look at your support network. So if it's that first night, where can you go? Where can you stay? Where are you going to be supported and positively? If it's the job stuff, for example, that we're talking about, do you know anyone, friends and family on your side that you're going to stay connected with, who works in some form of recruitment or hiring, or has been a hiring manager, that can give you some ideas around helping you put together your CV and where to apply and making your LinkedIn and things like that? All those types of little touch points that can help lessen the fear and the scare factor around it, and where you can look for support, because the people are out there, and there's nothing wrong with asking for help, not at all.
Yeah, definitely. And it's accepting that you are going to have days where you feel spinning, that you're out of control. You are going to have days where you feel overwhelmed. and you're going to have days where you're feeling that like you're on top of everything. That's the nature of the beast, and it's just keeping on your path. And I always used to say, do you know what, even if I'm having a bad day, I'm okay with that, because tomorrow is going to be a better day. And I would take really baby steps some days, huge steps in other days. Like everybody, it's being okay with that. It's knowing that you are where you are supposed to be at any given time.
Yeah.
And one thing that I'm thinking about that we haven't touched on is one thing that I had to adjust to, like everyone who's a parent, is not having your children all the time. That's a huge adjustment. Yeah. And I can remember sitting at home, probably crying my eyes out because I was going to have to share my children.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a huge change.
Yeah. No, and again, just my own experience, but also what I hear a lot, more so with guys, is about the fear of, are they going to get to see their kids again, and when, and for how much, and for how long, and things like that. And that again, it can just be a very scary moment for people as well. I think that was probably the biggest one and the biggest fear factor I had as well. I mean, to be fair, I didn't really care where I lived. I still don't, so long as I've got as long as I've got my kids, and obviously all four of them that I have now. Yeah, I was interested to see who was going to bring that up, because obviously it's one of the more obvious and bigger ones that we speak about it so often, don't we? About and things like that. But that is also again to not, from that kind of self-pressure. Yes, it is going to be an adjustment period. Yes, it's going to be upsetting and scary. I mean, we spoke about music once before, didn't we? About what songs did we listen to? And I used to have this systematic process when I dropped the boys off. I think I told you before, didn't I? We used to drop the boys off, put away from the old family home, get on the dual carriageway going to where I was going, and I'd pull over in the first lay-by. I'm a smoker, so I was a smoker. I vape now. It's just down there. And I'd open the window, I'd have a cigarette, and I'd play Father and Sons by Cat Stevens, and I'd just cry and get it all out, and then like get out of the way so I could calm down. But again, give yourself that space and that opportunity. Don't suppress it. Don't push it down, because it will come out in other ways, in other forms, and more often than not at the wrong time. What you don't want to do is suppress all of that emotion and keep pushing it down, and then I don't know, you're in a Zoom Teams meeting with everyone talking about a product launch, and it all comes out in different. It will come out, and it may well come out in a very different emotion. It might not come out in the emotive, upset, crying type of emotion. It might come out in anger or something else that wasn't meant to come out in that way. Hence why you really got to give yourself that space and just be kind to yourself and allow it to flow through.
It is. And it's funny, I think you've mentioned that song before, and it's a beautiful song. And the song I used to listen to, it's a bit of a power one, and it got me through the days, is Survivor by Destiny's Child. And even now, when I listen to it now, it gets me pumped up to think, yeah, I've managed it. I'm a warrior. I've achieved it. I'm bossing it. So even now, it's great to listen to those songs to see how far you have come.
Yeah, absolutely. Change your playlist as well. I mean, I changed mine. I don't listen to that song anymore, but but
New songs, definitely. I think everyone that's going through these huge changes, they are overwhelming, they are scary, and the more that you move through the process, the stronger you will become. It's one of the most stressful things, isn't it, after death? Is getting divorced.
I think, I can't remember if I said this to you before. There was kind of, I remember my dad saying this to me a couple of years ago, and I corrected him on it years later when getting divorced. And my dad always used to say about like the obvious, I think it was like the three really obvious things, like the three most stressful things in life is getting married, having a baby, and moving house. And like a lot of people, it's like an old saying sort of thing, like three most stressful things. And I said to him, no, I think you're wrong. It's all three in reverse at the same time. And when you're losing the house, not getting to see the kids, and obviously uncoupling. But again, I think the other point is as well is talk to someone, or try and talk to more than one person. Try and find your support group or support professional that knows exactly what it's like, and make sure that they're surrounding yourself with positive experiences, and find those people, that friends, family, whatever they might be, colleagues, who have been through not the same, but maybe something similar, or have been through some kind of relationship breakup, but have had a positive outcome, where they have a good working partnership with their exes, where they co-parent in a positive way, where the kids are all happy. Those are the people you're going to surround yourself with, and share your stories and your angst and what's going on for you. And they'll be there for you because they'll get it first and foremost more than anyone. And they'll, even if it's just that sounding board for someone to listen to, but go and find the right supports for you, because they are out there.
Definitely. I mean, that's great advice. You know, we do talk about that support network so much, and it is imperative that everyone has some sort of support network, like you say, an exercise buddy, someone just to go out with and talk about things, someone who's been through the experience, just to say, yeah, I get you, I know how that feels. It's really nice to have that validation, isn't it?
Absolutely.
To think, actually, I'm okay, I can do this.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. All right, well, that was all of it, all of the questions and points that I had. Anything else from you, Fay?
Oh my gosh, no, I haven't actually written anything down today, but that's not a bad thing.
Because I mean, these are always organic, aren't they? We don't pre-script it,
Yeah.
but we usually have like one or two opening questions to kind of get it flowing. And we didn't today. We just said, right, let's just hit record, get on with it. Yeah, so that was all nice and organic and natural. So I hope it was good to listen to.
Yeah, we could have digressed somewhat, but you know, that's the joys of doing this live and just like going with the flow.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope.
As ever, then, I suppose just saying goodbye to our audience. Thanks for listening or watching if it's on YouTube. We are on Spotify and Amazon Music now for podcasts. Apple and Google Play's following. It's just my technical restrictions, but it will be with you shortly, depending on when you listen to this. We've also got a number of guests coming up, and we've got many guests planned over the next coming weeks and even months on a whole host of topics, from people's personal stories and experiences, of variant type of experiences, through to professionals that are coming on, other solicitors, mediators that are coming to talk around very specialist topics as well, such as the nesting arrangements and things like that. So look out for those as well. Last thing, as always, is if you can give us a like or a thumb, whatever, and a comment, that'd be fantastic. It helps with the algorithm. And subscribe as well, and share with anyone you might know, friends, colleagues, neighbours, someone that might find some of our information and little chats useful.
Definitely. And we're also on Clubhouse, aren't we? Every Friday at 2:30, talking about something to do with relationships, divorces, separations. They're always great chats. So if you're a member of Clubhouse, please drop in and join us.
And if you're not, get in contact, because we've got loads of invites to share. And I think Android are on it as well now. So we can start sharing it with Android people as well.
Brilliant.
Cool. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. And yeah, we'll see you again soon.
See you again soon.